Ever feel like you're reading the same page over and over, and the information just isn't sticking? We've all been there, right? You're sitting there, a book or screen in front of you, and no matter how many times you read the same paragraph, the words seem to slip through your mind like water through a sieve. This common frustration isn't just a nuisance, it's a roadblock on our path to knowledge, a hurdle in our pursuit of lifelong learning. It slows us down, hampers our productivity, and makes the learning process more of a struggle than a joy. Imagine the countless hours lost, the opportunities missed, because we couldn't absorb and retain what we needed to learn. Now, if this sounds familiar, don't despair. You're not alone in this. Many people struggle with the same issue. But there's a method that can help. It's called the Feynman Technique, and it might just turn your learning difficulties around. Enter the Feynman Technique, a simple yet effective learning method developed by Nobel laureate Richard Feynman. Now, who was Richard Feynman, you may ask? He was an American physicist, a brilliant thinker, and a charismatic teacher known for his ability to simplify complex concepts. His knack for making the complicated understandable led to the development of this ingenious learning technique that carries his name, the Feynman Technique. The Feynman Technique is built on the foundation of understanding rather than memorization. It's not about cramming facts into your brain, but rather about truly comprehending the ideas and concepts at hand. This technique is surprisingly simple and can be broken down into 4 steps. Choose a concept, teach it to a toddler, identify gaps, and review and simplify. First, you choose a concept you want to understand. It could be anything from quantum mechanics to baking bread. Then, you pretend to teach this concept to a toddler. Why a toddler? Because toddlers have a limited vocabulary and zero understanding of complex terminology. This forces you to break down the concept into its simplest form. Next, you identify gaps in your explanation. These gaps represent areas where your understanding is shaky. Now, you go back to your source material with a better idea of what you don't understand. You fill in these gaps until you can explain the concept in simple terms without any stumbling. Finally, you review and simplify your explanation. If the explanation is still too complicated, you break it down further. You continue this process until you can explain the concept in such a way that anyone can understand it. The beauty of the Feynman technique is that it's not just about learning new things, it can also be used to test your understanding of what you think you already know. It's a tool for lifelong learning, a method to deepen your comprehension and retain knowledge more effectively. Sounds simple enough, right? But how does it work in practice? Imagine you're trying to understand the theory of relativity. It's complex, and it might seem impossible at first. But wait, let's not get intimidated. Instead, let's use the Feynman technique. Step 1, we start by studying the topic. We read about it, watch videos, listen to podcasts, or engage in any other means that help us gather information about the theory of relativity. We absorb as much as we can, taking notes in our own words. All right, moving on to step 2. Here we try to explain the theory in the simplest terms possible. Picture that you're explaining it to a 10-year-old. You can't use jargon or complex terminology. You have to break it down to the bare essentials. You might say the theory of relativity is about how time and space aren't fixed. They can change. Like when you're having fun, time seems to fly, but when you're bored, it drags on. That's a tiny taste of relativity. Now we're on to step 3. This is where we identify gaps in our understanding. As you were explaining the theory, did you stumble? Were there parts you weren't quite sure about? Maybe you didn't fully grasp how time and space can change. That's a gap, and it's perfectly okay to have them. We're learning after all. So we revisit our sources, this time with a focus on filling those gaps. We're not just studying now, we're studying with purpose. We're seeking out the pieces of the puzzle that we're missing. This targeted approach can make a huge difference in our understanding. Finally, step 4 is about reviewing the material. Now, we're not just going over it again, we're trying to simplify further. We're refining our explanation, making it even easier to understand. Maybe we come up with a better analogy for the theory of relativity. Perhaps it's like a trampoline. When something heavy, like a bowling ball representing a massive object in space, is placed on it, it causes a dip in the surface. This is how massive objects cause a curve in space-time, affecting the motion of other objects around it. And there you have it. The theory of relativity, a topic once daunting, now simplified and understood thanks to the Feynman technique. It's a powerful tool, isn't it? It takes learning from a passive activity to an active one, making it more engaging and effective. So, the next time you're faced with a complex topic, remember the Feynman technique. Study, explain, identify gaps, and review. With these 4 steps, you're well on your way to mastering any subject. Happy learning! Now it's your turn to give it a try. The Feynman technique isn't a magic trick or a quick fix, it's a tool, and like any tool, it needs practice to be used effectively. So let's explore some practical tips to help you get started. Firstly, don't shy away from any subject, whether it's science, history, maths, or even philosophy. The Feynman technique can be your secret weapon. For science, break down complex theories into simple concepts. For history, create a storyline out of events and characters. Next, don't just read about the subject, immerse yourself in it. Watch videos, listen to podcasts, have discussions. Use all resources at your disposal to gather information and perspectives. This will give you a holistic understanding and then make it easier to simplify the subject. Another crucial tip is to be patient with yourself. Learning is a journey, not a race. If you're struggling with a concept, don't beat yourself up. Take a break, refresh your mind, and come back to it. You might find that the answer was right in front of you all along. One of the most powerful aspects of the Feynman technique is its iterative nature. If you can't explain a concept simply the first time, don't worry. Go back to your sources, learn more, and try again. Each iteration will make you better at understanding and explaining the concept. Remember, the Feynman technique isn't about memorizing, it's about understanding. Test yourself regularly. If you can explain a concept to someone who knows nothing about it, you've truly understood it. Lastly, keep a learning journal. Write down what you've learned, how you've simplified it, and how you can apply it. This will not only reinforce your understanding, but also serve as a reference for future study sessions. So take these tips and apply them to your next study session. Use the Feynman technique to make learning easier, faster, and more enjoyable. Remember, the key is to simplify. If you can explain it to a 5-year-old, you've got it. So are you ready to revolutionize your learning process? Let's take a moment to revisit what we've unraveled today about the Feynman technique. Remember, this is a 4-step process that anyone can adopt to turbocharge their learning. First, pick a concept you want to understand and study it thoroughly. Then, explain it as if you were teaching it to a 5th grader. This forces you to break down complex ideas into simpler terms. If you stumble, it's a sign you haven't quite grasped the concept, and that's okay. It just means you need to go back and study it some more. Next, review and simplify your explanation even further. Feynman was a master at this. He believed that if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough. And finally, transmit your knowledge. Share it with others, write about it, or just explain it to yourself out loud. This solidifies your understanding and helps you retain information longer. This technique is not just about cramming facts into your brain, it's about truly comprehending the subject matter. It's about turning a complex web of information into a clear, digestible narrative. It's about making learning an active, engaging, and enjoyable process. Now it's your turn. We're eager to hear about your experiences with the Feynman technique. Have you tried it before? If not, are you willing to give it a shot? How has it impacted your learning? Every journey is unique, and your insights could inspire others to embrace this transformative method. So don't hesitate to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments section below. Remember, learning is a lifelong journey, and every step you take brings you closer to understanding the world around you. The Feynman technique is a powerful tool to aid you on this journey, so give it a try and see how it revolutionizes your learning process. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more learning tips. Until next time, happy studying.